All right, welcome back to the program. Jonathan Edwards, Sunshine, go away. No, come back. Sunshine went away. It was out earlier.
Tim was just saying that Jonathan Edwards played at the New Bedford Folk Festival.
Yeah, he did. Yep.
I don't know why that slipped my notice. Yeah, I recognize it. It's a famous song.
Yeah, very famous song. Yeah. That was this was before you, though, 1971.
Yeah.
So you must have heard it like on an oldie station or something, right?
Something like that.
Good stuff. Mayor Jon Mitchell is with us. We have a shortened show today, only an hour. You got a busy day. Huh? I mean, a half hour.
A half hour. It'll be the fastest half hour in radio.
So we've got some more snow on the way. Not much, though.
Not much.
No.
Not much. And then it'll warm up in the next few days. And then we're looking at, I think there's some early forecasts of snow next week, so we'll be mindful of it. The snow, the removal this weekend went pretty well. The forecast sort of came about somewhat abruptly, and DPI in particular managed it very well. Jamie Pont, the Commissioner of Public Infrastructure, made some really, what I thought, some really thoughtful audibles in the middle of the storm to make sure that we got it done, but didn't spend an inordinate amount of taxpayer dollars on it. These storms every single one of them is just, they're all different. And when you plow and how many people you put out and when you put them out and how much product to put down are all different. And they depend on, how cold it not only is at the time of the storm, but also how cold it will be in the next, in the few days after the storm, how much snow, when it's hitting. I mean, so it's almost like we've talked about this before. It's like going into a football game and assessing your opponent and coming up with a strategy to attack the game. And they did a nice job with it.
So you're not going to no parking ban today? I mean, there's not going to be that, right?
No, there won't be a parking ban.
Are they going to be out there treating in advance, or?
They might. It depends. I mean, if it's going to warm up pretty abruptly, as it looks like it will tomorrow morning, it may not make any sense to do that. So they'll take a look at it and see if that makes sense.
So a little bit of confusion over the weekend with this past storm in that I guess the parking ban was announced. We had it on. It was on social media elsewhere.
Yeah.
Somehow or another didn't get to the city's website. How did that happen?
Not sure. We think there was a technical issue there, but and look, I think there was ample notice out there. It was the Standard Times picked it up. You guys picked it up. New Bedford Guide. I pushed it out on Twitter, the city's Facebook. But people use the city. We do direct people to the city's website, and that acts as sort of a backstop of information about snowstorms and a whole host of other things. We want people to go to the website to get accurate information all the time, right? So that it didn't make it on there for reasons that are we're still trying to figure out, and we will figure that out. I don't think it's a huge deal, but but it didn't make sense for us to. I thought, in fairness, we should just wipe out the tickets. I will say that people, there were a lot of tickets issued, and
how many?
I think there were over 1,000.
So that's a little bit of cash.
It is, yeah.
What would that be roughly?
Well, $50 a ticket, right? So about $50,000, yeah. So we certainly want the revenue, but we don't write tickets to generate revenue. We write tickets to make sure that people are getting their cars out of the way when there's a snowstorm coming. So in the big scheme of the budget, it's not that much money, but we do want people to get their cars out of the way when the plows are coming, because again, it's all about public safety. If we can't get ambulances or fire trucks down a street, particularly some of our narrower side streets, it could be a life or death matter. And so that's why we did it. And there was a lot less compliance this time around. So even though we're not going to be holding people to those tickets, those tickets themselves should be seen as just a reminder that if you think there's snow coming, you should just assume that there's a parking ban until you hear until you hear differently.
There were wasted man hours too. Had police officers out there issuing tickets, and
yeah, well, they're out, but they're out there anyway, right? So that's not the biggest issue. I think we incurred a little bit of overtime, but again, not a significant amount.
But I mean, when does personal responsibility enter the debate here? I mean, people knew that it was going to snow. Everybody. I was in New York. I knew it was going to snow here.
No, I get it. You know, we haven't hesitated in issuing tickets, and I think the plowing has gotten better because the roads have been clearer. Every year since I've gotten into office, we've seen very low compliance on the first snowstorm, and sometimes it's like people forgot that we get snow in New Bedford, and you've got to move your car. It's a little bit of a head scratcher. I agree with you, but the call to not to enforce those tickets, I think, is just again, it's just a question of fairness, and so that's the way. Some people came in and said, I checked your website and didn't see anything. My wife Ann said, I checked the website and didn't see it. So
she got a ticket, right?
No, she didn't.
Now we know.
She didn't. No, she didn't get a ticket. She didn't get a ticket. No, it's on our street. We park on the side of the street away from the hydrant anyway, so it's not a matter for us. But in any event, I just thought out of fairness that. But
what does that say to the people who do follow the rules? When we excuse those who don't follow the rules?
I suspect that's here we are, and it's February 20th, and it probably won't be. I hope it's the last snowstorm that we have to plow for this year, but it probably won't be. And so it's the next time those tickets are going to count.
So people went out and moved their cars and did the right thing, and
that's a good thing. Yeah. That's a good thing. There won't be any wiping out of tickets next time because we'll fix the technical issue.
Even if it doesn't make it onto the website, no waiving of tickets. I mean, this is it.
No, it won't make it onto the website.
It will make it onto. Years ago, we never had websites, and we knew that.
No, but we direct people. That's the thing. It's not like there wasn't there was ample notice, but we direct people to the website for more information about cancellations and other things.
Again, it just comes to me. This is just a personal thing. It comes down to common sense. You got to write. Don't put this coffee between your legs because it'll burn you. I mean, don't use your hairdryer in the tub because you might get electrocuted. It's going to snow. You got to move your car. I mean, people should know. There's a certain amount of civic responsibility people should have, right?
Yeah, but not every snowstorm requires a parking ban. That's the difference, right? So, I think, I mean, you just asked me about tonight whether there's a parking ban. I said no. So it's not. If there are some communities, I think some of our suburban communities, like Acushnet, have an effective ban throughout the winter. So it means there's more off-street parking, but more people have driveways, and Acushnet as a percentage of the overall population. So it's easier for compliance. But that's how some communities do it. Some cities actually go further than us. Providence has a double-sided parking ban. Like, you can't park anywhere in Providence when there is a ban in place. Right?
Brookline is from in November to March. You can't park on the street.
It may well be. So, in any case, I get your point about personal responsibility, and we have been, I think, fairly strict about ticketing. It's just, in this particular instance where we direct people to the website for more information, and there was nothing there. I think, in fairness, we had to.
Anybody towed, or was it just tickets?
No, there weren't any towing.
So you had about 1,000.
There wasn't any towing because it really wasn't that much snow. It was just enough to be plowable, unfortunately.
Right.
In fact, even in the south end, it was bare. I mean, they were just mopping up because there was more snow in the north end. Up in Sasquatch, they got 4 or 5 inches of snow, and down in the south end, it was much less, about half of that.
All right, somebody broke into City Hall.
There was someone entered the elections office, and there wasn't. What was taken was there's a petty cash draw, as there is in a number of city offices. It doesn't contain much money. They took what I'm told is about, I think, a little over $100. It was like $120, and but the police are on top of it, and we should, I don't want to go into the details of an investigation, but they have some leads, and they think they will be able to make something of it. My bigger concern is the security in City Hall, and we're going to make sure that something like that doesn't happen again. There are some steps that we can take to make sure that everything's buttoned up a little bit better. It's an older building, and if we wouldn't, ideally there will be a time when New Bedford builds a new city hall that has, among other modern features, modern security features that make it easier to guard the building at all hours and to monitor it. It's a secure building, especially where there's cash, especially in the treasurer's office. That is it's treated like a bank almost. But we need to see where we can do better. We've done a lot of work in the last couple of years on active shooter training. We've gone through those exercises in City Hall as well as other offices, as well as our schools. And so we're going to be sitting down next week to figure out what other measures we can take to make the building more secure.
Are there cameras in City Hall?
There are, and those are being checked.
Oh, so they are being reviewed. So
right.
Chances are, whoever did this will be captured on video.
Hard for me to say right now without knowing.
Right.
I wouldn't say those details anyway, but there are on the air. There are cameras.
So how do they get in through it? I heard something about a window. Do they go through a window or through the front door? Or how do they get in?
Yeah, I'd rather not say. I think there's, just because you don't want to encourage others to think, well, I can get in, in a certain way. All I'll say is that the police are actively working on it. They're taking it very seriously. I'm taking it very seriously, and what was taken was just a fistful of dollars in effect, and but even that's still disconcerting, and so we're gonna do whatever we need to do to make sure that building is sealed up.
So was that one spot targeted, or was there any evidence of any tampering anywhere else, or any effort to get into any other offices?
You're asking me to exactly the kind of stuff that nobody in their right mind would actually say on the air if they're trying to figure out how
well, it's my job, trying to get as much information as possible.
I got it, but you understand it's my job not to let the bad guys know how to get into City Hall or to let the bad guys who actually broke in to know what the police might have or not have on them.
Right. So you expect this thing to be resolved pretty soon now?
They're actively working on it. I mean, whether they catch the culprit, is another matter. But I know they've got some leads, and they're actively working it, and the chief has prioritized it. Yep.
Is there a camera in that office?
So I'd rather not say where the cameras are. We've been through this on cameras.
Well, if you tell everybody, they won't go in, right?
I think people should just assume the
big dogs in there. Don't go in there. Stay out of there.
Right.
Harry Sky's sitting here with a sawed-off shotgun. Stay out of the office, right?
That's an image.
He's protecting the money. There's an image, right? Yeah. All right. Anything new with Elma Del Mar in terms of actual votes being scheduled on that thing?
Not just yet. I know the superintendent is dealing with the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education on the matter. We had a school committee meeting last week, and as we had discussed, and I think it's important for people to understand what's at stake here, and they've probably seen in the media criticisms of the city and me in particular coming from all angles, right? This is folks who are saying there aren't enough charters in New Bedford, and others are saying there shouldn't be any more. My feeling all along has been there shouldn't be any more because we can't afford them, and you and I have talked at length about that. But people need to understand the reality here, which is this is the working of state law. State law creates a very heavy presumption in favor of charter expansion. There is a charter school that qualifies as a so-called proven provider, which basically means that your kids are performing above average, right? Not the best, not the best in the district even, but just above average across the state. And so if they qualify in that way, they're presumed to be eligible for expansion. And that is regardless, I just really want to emphasize this, regardless of the financial consequences of the expansion. So charter schools are a huge imposition on us fiscally, and that's why I oppose additional expansion. But people need to know that the board the commissioner and the board said there's going to be a charter school in New Bedford, and the choice is basically this: there's a charter school in New Bedford, going to be, and you can either pay $4 million for it or you can pay $8 million for it. That's it. Pick your poison. That's what this is. This is, and I've said it all along. I think state law needs to be changed. We tried, because it tilts the playing field heavily in favor of charter school expansion, and so I'll continue to beat that drum. But on this particular matter, what we tried to do is make the best of a really lousy situation, which is to reduce the cost to the city of this new school, and we did it by not only reducing the size of the expansion itself. The application was for 1,188 seats. The school is going to be 450 seats, but by doing it in a neighborhood format as opposed to a citywide lottery format, it allows the school district to actually save on classroom cost, right? So if you're moving classrooms from nearby schools as opposed to one kid here through a lottery system, you can actually reduce staffing a little bit and save the district money, so it isn't as expensive of a proposition. The other thing I'll say is, and people should understand this, I think it makes it less likely by doing a neighborhood arrangement. It makes it a lot less likely that other outside charter schools will want to come to New Bedford. They won't want any part of it, and that's a very deliberate part of what we tried to accomplish here. So, the school committee's had a chance to weigh in. This has been, an effort that has taken a lot of time. I think Franklin's taken up too much of the superintendent's time. He's got a lot of work on his plate. He's doing a really good job, but we want to get beyond this and then, let him continue to do the good work that he has been doing.
So the next step is for the council, for the school committee to vote. But right. Has that been put on the agenda for the next meeting?
It hasn't yet. We're still. Okay. So the superintendent is taking the lead on the negotiation with Alma and with DESE, and so we have the school committee's lawyers involved in it, and so they're working through the proposed memorandum of understanding that will be negotiated with Alma, and if we're able to get to an agreement, then that'll be put before the school committee, and then for a vote, and then there will be other votes concerning the home rule petition for a change in state law that will pave the way for this memorandum of understanding, as well as the transfer of the property at the Kempton School. So right. That's all to come. And it's not. We're not talking months now. We're talking weeks.
It's got to happen quickly. Yeah. All right. Quick break, and then we'll come back. Some calls for the mayor. Stay on the line right there. We'll get your calls in next, right here on 1420 WBSM. And we are back. Sorry about that, big voice guy. That's what we call him, big voice guy, because he's got that big voice there. Yeah,
He must be huge.
they make a lot of money doing that. That's voiceover.
Where do I get a job like that?
Well, you gotta get that big voice there. You know?
I will work on it. I'll take lessons.
Yeah, I've got friends who do that, and they make a lot of money doing it. You know, you just do voiceover work, do commercials. One day you're doing a commercial, the next day you're doing a voice for a cartoon character or whatever. You can make a lot of money doing that.
Sounds like a blast. You don't even break a sweat.
It is a blast. Yeah, absolutely. My friend Louis does it out of his basement in Burlington, Vermont. He's got a studio in his basement, and he gets jobs over the internet. And he might be, a squirrel in a cartoon one day, and then the next day he's doing, something else. So
that's quite a gig.
Yeah, 508-9960-500. Thanks for hanging on. You're first with the mayor. Go ahead.
Good afternoon. I have a couple of statements, and then I have a question.
Go ahead.
And I got, you open the door, man. How can you nonchalantly blow off the wood missing from the Ernestina, make an excuse about $50,000 in revenue and police time? That's $50,000 for the revenue, and that's also the manpowers and hours. So that's probably, with the police, that's probably $150,000. And what do you actually got to do working for the city of New Bedford to become held accountable? And there is the question. Why don't you fill me in on that? And I'd love to see what goes on that the taxpayers don't know about, because this doesn't look too good, in my opinion.
All right, let me let the mayor respond to that.
I'm glad, from Freetown, he's concerned about taxes in New Bedford. So look, I mean, we've been through this. I mean, it's like the same. We get the same thing from him every show. So. No, look, I mean, we covered it, and you know what? It's a matter of fairness. We don't do tickets to generate revenue for the city. We don't do that. And if we really wanted to be doing it, we'd flood the city with police officers and write tickets for everybody who's, even slightly parked near a fire hydrant or near a crosswalk. Or no, you don't do it that way. This is not. It's the point of ticketing is to make sure that people don't park, in the case of snow bans, don't park in the way of emergency vehicles and plows. So and if someone got a ticket this time, they certainly know that they did that, even if they're not having to pay for it.
I think his point that I got out of his call was that somebody screwed up again, and it cost the city money, and will they be held accountable for it? I think that's. No,
I don't know if it's a technical issue or what. We'll figure that out. The idea that people aren't held accountable is ridiculous. It just is. It's ridiculous. So, we've been through it before, and so that's all I got to say on the matter.
All right, Boathouse Council has again refused to put up any money or bond for money to do the repairs on the boathouse, and the Parks Department saying, look, this is a nice piece of property. If this thing falls in, we'll never be able to site another one right here because of all the existing environmental laws and everything else. Are you going back to the council for some money to get that thing fixed up? I guess there's interest in that people want to rent boats out of there or use it to rent from the city in order to rent boats to people.
Well, I thought we had a pretty good plan that we presented to the council, and they shot it down, and for reasons that I still don't quite get. It would have required 8 votes, and they didn't, which is a super majority, and they didn't get that many votes, and so just a handful of councilors held out on it, and less than a majority, and that was enough to kill it. So I would just suggest to those councilors that we're not not spending the money to gold plate the place. We're not trying to spend money for like some broad new initiative. We're just fixing something that we own and have owned for a long time. And if you don't fix it, it's going to fall apart. And then forget about replacing it.
Then you got to pay to remove it.
Yeah, which costs something. I mean, we go through this time and time again as though you can just sort of forget about maintaining stuff. And this is, if people want to know about why the roadways have fallen into disrepair in the city, it's exactly that mentality. You just forget it. Let somebody else deal with the problem.
Well, somebody suggested, I think it might have been Councilor Carney, if I remember correctly, that let's get the kids from Vogue. But I mean, that sounds easy.
But the kids from Vogue go to school, right? And I know there's the program. It's been a long-standing program, and they do a fabulous job. They do. But they're not a substitute for the city actually taking care of its stuff.
It still costs money.
It still costs money, but they're not a substitute for the city like fixing those things it has to. You just did an advertisement for Kudo Construction on roof work, right? The same. You got to fix your roof on your house. You also have to fix roofs on things like boathouses and libraries and city halls and school buildings too, if you're a city. So, and just saying, well, let's call Voc and have the kids in the program come fix it is just it's not realistic. I mean, they do a great job. They do a really great job on the stuff they're assigned to, but the city is responsible for what it has, and that requires us to put some money in.
Will you make another pitch to the council on this?
We'll try to skin the cat another way, one way or the other. Yeah, we'll have to. What's the alternative? One alternative: you put some money in, you fix it up, and you actually generate revenue, or you just say, forget it, and then watch some future administration have to clean up the mess later on. We don't want to do that.
I mean, you're not going to be around next year after. Is that what you're telling us? Yeah?
I'm not saying.
Oh, okay.
I'm not saying anything along those lines. You never miss an opportunity.
Never miss an opportunity. No, absolutely. Mayor, thanks for coming in.
Thanks, Barry.
Appreciate you spending a half an hour with us today. You got a busy schedule today, and we appreciate that. All right, let me take the break for the news, and we're going to come back and chat with you. 508-996-0500 is our phone number. Stay with us. ABC and then Tim in the local newsroom on WBSM.